Hi, everyone. Welcome and thank you for joining us today. Today, we're going to hear from Damon Brennen, an EM community member and AI consultant. He'll be sharing some best practices, tips, and some demos for how to incorporate AI into your marketing workflows. Here at EM, we've been really interested in learning more about AI and how we can use it as a tool to make us better and not replace us, of course. So we're excited today to hear about how Damon has been doing just that. So let's get into it.
All right. Hi, everyone. Welcome to the AI Lunch and Learn. So we're going to talk about practical ways that marketers can work smarter with AI. I'm Damon Brennen. I have a background in video production and program management. So I had my own video production company for several years in San Francisco and had clients like Atlassian and Pandora and HP and made all sorts of videos like online advertisements, testimonial videos, various kind of marketing videos. Um, and then after that, and then also some educational videos. And then for the last 5 years or so, I managed the how-to video program at Intuit for QuickBooks. And we kind of all sorts of like 100+ videos of people to teach people how to use QuickBooks. Now I'm back kind of freelancing again, and I'm adding AI consulting services to my offering. So I'll do things like trainings that are like this, strategy sessions, and AI readiness audits, where we kind of go talk to a company and see like where are some of the opportunities for them to use AI, how ready are they to kind of do that, and what would maybe be the plan forward for that. And then the last part would be creating automations, which we'll talk about a little bit later. But these are ways that you can kind of automate some repetitive tasks that you want, or to be able to do things that you can't already do using AI. All right, so today we'll cover what AI is and how it works, what LLMs are good at for marketers, the big three LLMs, a little bit on how to prompt, and then we'll do some demos. All right, so I think it's always good to start with at least a little bit of like how AI really works, and because that's a good way to really understand how to use it and what you're going to get out of it. Um, so at its core, AI is really just pattern recognition. Like they don't really know things like humans know them. They're just super good um, at being able to spot patterns. May be recorded, monitored, and analyzed. And guessing what sounds right. So basically, it's been trained on a lot of stuff, and when it gives an answer, it knows what a good answer sounds like, and it's really kind of amazingly good at sort of triangulating that way based on all these patterns, giving you coherent answers on things. So how it works, this kind of simple breakdown is there's the training component. So it's kind of fed everything from the internet. And from a marketing perspective, it's got tons of marketing campaigns, blog posts, ads, customer FAQs, and all these things. Uh, it knows how language works. It kind of knows what phrases go together. It knows how to sound confident. It knows how to sound persuasive. It knows how to sound empathetic. So because it's seen all these things before. And then there's the pattern recognition. So instead of facts, it learns language patterns. So if someone asks, hey, I'm struggling with my conversion rates, it knows that another sentence to answer that might be, let's look at ways to improve your landing page messaging. And then third is the generation. So when you give it a prompt, like write an email for this prompt, it doesn't look it up in a database. It doesn't like it's not looking into its memory to find this answer. It's building it in real time by predicting word by word what sounds right based on everything it's learned before. And now for LLMs for marketing, there's a lot of really good uses for it. So first one we can look at would be content ideation and drafting. So let's do this here. Uh, so we're really good at creating blog post outlines, email drafts, social copy, ad variants, lots of different things because it's learned all these things before and it knows what one of these sounds like. So you can give it a use case like, hey, give me 5 headline variations for a product launch campaign targeting small business owners. And then you can also do personalization at scale. You could ask it something like, hey, I want to adjust the tone and messaging for a different different personas or different funnel stages. So you have something that you've written, and it might be for a millennial audience, and you want it to tweak it for a Gen Z audience. It's very good at being able to do stuff like that, especially if you give it plenty of context. Third, we'll talk about summarizing and synthesizing research. So because it knows all these patterns, it's really good at taking complicated things and then putting them down into something that's way more manageable, and also like knowing getting insights and from data and seeing patterns. So you could take something like a big marketing report and get sort of the gist of it, get kind of an executive summary, um, or you can get like key insights from it, or taking a bunch of customer data and saying, hey, if you give like 100 customer reviews, like, all right, analyze this and tell me what are the pain points, what are people talking about, are these mostly positive or negative, and things like that. And then next would be campaign optimization. So you can test variants very quickly, kind of set up A/B sets, brainstorm, get CTA improvements. So if you wanted like 3 alternative CTAs for a cart abandonment email, you could ask it to do that. And another thing with this is like we're giving examples like give me 3, give me 5. You can ask it for 100. It's just one of these things that it's not going to get annoyed. It's just going to keep giving you whatever you want. Then brainstorming and creative jam sessions. So this is one of my favorite uses of it. It's like kind of using it as your thought partner, something you can kind of generate ideas with, kind of bounce ideas off of, get different events, themes, taglines, names. So you can ask it for, hey, I want like 100 names, or give me like 10 names for this potential product, or 10 headlines for this campaign, and just kind of go back and forth and see the ones that you like. And again, it is just sort of giving you things that sound right. So it really, what it doesn't really have is taste. And still, it needs you to provide the taste. It's going to give you a lot of things that sound right, and you kind of need to go through and figure out what is something, what is actually the best idea. All right. Now for the LLMs, there's the three main ones: ChatGPT, Claude, and Gemini. And each of them, they're all really similar, and you can't really go wrong too wrong with any of them. They all have advanced and fast models. They all have a voice mode. They're multimodal, so they can see images and documents. They can code. They can create images and video, except for Claude. And they have the ability to use deep research. And we'll take a look at deep research in a little bit. If you kind of want to look at like what the advantages are, ChatGPT is probably like the good all-around choice. I like the controllable image generation with it. I think that's really nice because you can iterate, kind of art direct it a little bit. Claude is often the best writer and coder. And then Gemini, the main advantage it has is it's a solid example, but it's really integrated well with Google tools. And the VO3 is probably the best of the video generation tools right now. You can use some of that within Gemini, but I think if you really want to get into doing a lot of video generation, you have to get kind of a separate expensive uh, um, subscription just to VO3. Can't really go wrong with any of these choices. The best is to just pick one and pay for the full version of it and start experimenting, because all the free versions, like, they're very useful, but you can run out of things really quickly, especially if you're trying to experiment and learn. And a lot of them, they don't let you have access to the most um, like to their highest level models, uh, that you have to, like, for the free versions, you have to kind of get into the paid versions, especially for like Claude. If you want to use the latest one, you have to pay for it. That's only in the paid version. All right. And so once you kind of pick your AI, it's like getting the best results. And people hear a lot about prompt engineering and prompt structure, and there's a lot of different things you can do it, but I think there's some basic rules that you can follow with this stuff. So good prompting is going to get you better outcomes. So it's kind of thinking of it like as a creative brief for AI. You could tell a person to just go write an ad for you, and if they're a good person and they're experienced at that, they'll come back with something that is an ad, but it might be completely different from what you want because you haven't given them any direction or context. And that's sort of like what you need to kind of think about when you're prompting an LLM. So these elements of it, so context, task, constraints, and examples. So for context, thinking about what's the role you want them to play? Who's it for? What's the goal? So, hey, you're a content strategist writing for B2B SaaS founders, or uh, you're a designer who's creating a logo. Um, and then the task is, what do you want it to do? So write a post summarizing a new product launch. Then the constraints are, do you have what do you want? Do you know what you want to get out of it? Do you have a certain tone you want it to follow? Do you have a certain format? Do you want bullets? Do you want paragraphs? Do you want it to be a certain word count? And things like that. And then the last part is examples. So um, giving it something, if you want to get something that's fairly specific, like say if you want to write a brief or you want to write an article or a blog post and you want it to have a certain voice, you want to feed it as many examples of that as possible so it can knows how to mimic that voice. They're really good mimics, but you have to kind of give them that context. It won't just do it unless you have like kind of taught them what you're looking for. And then so it's the basic prompt formula was you are a blank, your goal is to blank, or your task is to do this, use this tone, the output should be like this, and the context, inserting background or examples here. You don't have to do that for everyone, but like that's a lot of times a good way to experiment and get the best results. And then the a really important thing is you're going to iterate for perfection. You're going to prompt it, you're going to see what you get out of it, you refine it and reprompt it. And maybe that's all done in one session, or maybe it is you kind of review it, uh, start kind of improving it yourself, and then go back and like refine your prompt after so you have it for the next time. And some things to consider when using LLMs is we always hear about hallucinations and things like that. They're always very confident, but they're not always correct. And just again, like the way because they don't know facts, like they're not looking at like direct facts. They're kind of knows what a correct answer sounds like, and they're very good at that, but they can be wrong. And so if you have something that's a crucial piece of information, it's always really good to go back and confirm that. Again, they also have bias. There's tons of stereotypes and stuff. It's been sort of taught on everything in the internet. So there's always problematic things on the internet. So you can get bias with that stuff. And so it's good to be mindful of that. And sometimes in your prompts, you might want to prompt it to not have certain biases. Again, like your brand voice, if you want it to have a certain voice, you need to feed it examples or style guides. It won't naturally match it unless you tell it that. Um, Private data should stay private. So these are, I wouldn't put any like, customer data or any sort of like personal identifying information out there. These are really public tools. Um, they do have different privacy settings so that, you can have things not test on your data, but still, I wouldn't, they are still kind of going out into the world, and you should be kind of careful of what you put into there. And last is keeping the human in the loop. One of the things with these are thinking, one, you want a human to kind of verify authenticity and figuring out and asking yourself, like, well, how is your customer going to feel about this if they can recognize that it is AI? And a lot of people can recognize that it's AI. Like, are they going to be happy about that? Are they going to think you've just taken a shortcut? Are they going to, how are they going to feel? So a lot of times people want to have the output be kind of like the AI to be kind of like opaque to customers, like that you're using it to get to the best spot, but it's not in the end, it's still the human that's creating that. All right, so let's look at some examples now. We'll create a creative brief from some notes. We'll take a look at creating a logo and an Instagram ad in ChatGPT. I'll show a deep research example, and we'll go over some automations if we have time at the end. And to do this, I created a fake company, and it's another thing that LLMs are really good at is like, hey, I want a fake example for this. It knows what companies sound like. It knows what all this sort of text and stuff should sound like. So I kind of asked it to create something for it, and we have Nest Together. It's a modern money app designed specifically for couples. It helps partners plan, share goals, track expenses together, and stay in sync financially, all in one cozy, easy to use platform. Whether you're moving in, getting engaged, or just trying to avoid another awkward money convo, Nest Together makes it easier to talk about money without the tension. So we'll use this as our company and do a couple examples from that. And so here's ChatGPT. I guess we're going to do a poll that I forgot to tell us to do, but just to kind of like, if I'm assuming most people have used ChatGPT to some degree.
I launched the
And
poll in case anybody
okay,
wants to answer.
yeah, that's good. We can look at that again. We should have led with that, but we're doing it live. So you put your question in here, your prompt in here, and then it kind of goes back and forth like a chat bot. And let's go for our is this. So for our Nest Together, we have had we want to do a fall campaign, and we have grab some notes here. I'm going to do this first. Close this here.
I'm going to go ahead and share the results
Okay.
while we do this.
No.
Yeah, it looks like a lot of people have used AI in their workflows, and a lot of people are doing it now, but some need to start, some don't want to. Hey, I get that.
Yeah. Oh, there it is. Okay, cool. Nice. So let's put in a prompt here. Mine. Okay. So you're a senior marketing strategist. Based on the following notes from a strategy call, generate a clear, client-ready, one-page campaign brief for a fall product launch. Write in a confident, warm tone, not too corporate. Avoid generic marketing speak or vague fluff. Prioritize with clarity and resonance and include these sections. So if we kind of go back to our examples here, we've kind of given it some context. We kind of told it what it is. We told it what we want it to do. We've given it some idea of what we want in the output. And then the other thing that we could do is give it some examples that we don't have right now, but that's the next step that we would go to make it better. So now I will take the notes from our meeting, from our pretend meeting here, copy, there, and then add that there, and see what we get. Our overview, audience insight, sample tags, headlines, KPIs, creative notes, and then you can kind of take that and paste it in to a document, and you have kind of a 1 to 2 page creative brief that you can, and this could be either something that might be a starting point that you want to go and like finish it, especially if you're doing it for the first time and you're not knowing exactly how you want to prompt it. And then you can kind of go back and refine this prompt to give it more information so that it can get closer to the thing that you want there. And this is a really good use case for this stuff, because it's not something that is like you're just trying to get some information to somebody else so they can do something. And it's a thing that can take up a lot of time to write these briefs, but like they're kind of like the main thing is just conveying some information to somebody else. And it's not really something that maybe needs like the human connection like something else would. And so we've got our brief. And now I think the next thing we can do is we can try to create a logo for our company. So let me put in a prompt for this here. For this one, we're going to tell it to be a graphic designer and tell it's the job to create a logo for a company called Nest Together, and then a bunch of stuff that the logo should include. So symbolizing safe, like a cozy nest icon, telling it we want a word mark that says this, a color palette matching the campaign ad. And so I will also include our campaign brief. The design should feel cozy and cute and all of the stuff here. So I will then attach the brief here. And we can see what it will come up with. And this is going to take a lot longer. So what I will do is we'll just, in this one, and another nice thing here is because it'll kind of tell you what it's going to do first. I think you kind of tweak any of these things that you like or don't like, and then ask it to create the image. And so it takes a little while to create the image. So we will just kind of cheat on that a bit and go to the one that I did yesterday. And it created this. And I can kind of go back a little bit of how I did this. So I first asked it to create the prompt. And that's another really nice thing that you can do. There's like these really detailed prompts that I have is, eventually you might learn what the details you want to put in there, but the LLMs are really good at helping you create the prompt. So it's something like this, like, hey, help me create a prompt for a logo for this. Ask me any clarifying questions so that you can get all the information you need for a good prompt. And so it asked me a bunch of questions. And then I was like, oh, I actually have this brief, and that answers some of them. So I gave them the brief, and then it asks some different questions, which I then answered. It gave me the prompt. And so I put that in, and then it asked, well, do you want to create a version of that? And so it did. And then saying like, hey, I need this to have a tagline in it. And so let's come up with some taglines. And it had a couple questions for me on what would I want. I answered those. And then it gave me, I wanted something that was going to be more practical. I thought that people wouldn't know what this company does. So it gave a bunch of here. I picked one of them and then said, all right, let's add it to the logo. So that's how that works there.
Hey, Damon, can you show again how you attached that? That's from Danielle in the chat.
Yeah.
How you add an attachment, I guess.
Yeah. So you can just simply drag and drop. So like for this here, I'll drag it here. And I just dragged it from my from folder in there. But the other way you can do that is add. You can add it from like your Google Drive or whatever there. But drag and drop is probably the easiest there.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. And then so the next thing I thought could kind of do is we can take we have our logo and we have our brief, and let's try to create an Instagram ad for one of these things. So the prompt we have here.
Okay, I have another quick question.
Yeah.
So on the logo output, can you tell ChatGPT for a few options, or now are you tweaking colors, etc., post output? Like, could you keep going back and forth with it, saying, that's not quite right?
Yeah, you can. I can show one. Let me find a good example of one I did. So this, and I am going to just kind of be scrolling through a bunch of stuff here, but so this is one where I was trying to test out another image generator. And I was asking for, hey, give me a prompt to do that. And so it was giving some prompts. And then I was like, oh, I wanted a fake business, and it gave me a bunch of ones to choose from. And then I chose this one. And then I was kind of going back and forth with the prompts that it was giving me. See what it. So I get to the image part. Sorry, this is a little. And it was giving me something here. I was like, yeah, that's not really. Well, I do give me another prompt that I can do. And so I did that. And then I kind of like said, well, then kind of referring again, kind of going a bunch of different directions, and I could kind of say what was working and what's off, and then doing one more prompt. And then I decided, instead of using this other tool, Recraft, I just wanted ChatGPT to create it for me, and it created this. And so I've got that, and was able to kind of like, all right, now I want to put it on, like, what would it look like if I put it on a t-shirt? And so I kind of that, and you can kind of go back and forth with things like that. And then sort of at the end, I was like, all right, well, if I was going to make this like a real store, what would it look like? So I found a picture of a store, like, hey, make this store that store. And so it kind of created some things there. And then I was like, well, I want it to look a little bit different. And so I had it create that. That's what it's like, that's nice about it. It's like you can really like art direct it and kind of like go back and forth and say like, I don't want that. And then another thing you can do, if I go back to the last one I was doing, oops, not that one, this one, is, you can, if you want to change this right here, you can kind of go here and hit edit, and then edit the prompt, and then it will do a thing that's called threading. You'll see like a different version of, it'll give you a different output there, and then you'll have both of them. So if you have like the one that looks like this, so I can also do like, you could kind of change this, and then it would give you two different ones there. And so let's go with our new chats. And so we'll try this, we're going to try to do our fall campaign based on the brief, which is attached. We give it a task, what we want it to be. We tell it the format. The campaign is going to be for a 2-week duration. Give some headline options. Give it a CTA. Give it a tone. I'll provide the logo, so I'll attach the logo, and then reference the brief for audience insights, stuff like that. And so again, we will take, now this time we will take the brief and that, and then it's reading all the documents, and then I'll just have to create the ad.
So another question in the chat sort of along these lines. So assuming if you were at a company, you could feed it the company's style guidelines doc as a PDF, and it
Yep.
can also read that and come up with a logo.
Yes, exactly. You like, the more information you give it, the better things. And you could create what's called like a custom GPT. So they have these over here, which is where you're going to kind of feed it some stuff. We want it to do the same task over and over again, and it has the same parameters, and you kind of refine the prompt there and just feed it different things there. Or you can create what are called projects. And so we have a project over here. This is one I'm working on for T-Mobile, where they gave me a brief for a sizzle video that we're working on, and it's for API. So they also gave some like technical documents about how all these things worked. And so I put it in there, and then I gave it a set of instructions of how I wanted it to act. And then anytime I do any chats in here, it's going to refer to those documents. So I could ask it to be like, hey, how do I explain, give me like some really simple ways to explain this communication API. And it would give me a bunch of things that I could kind of go from that. And it's a nice way to kind of go back and forth and stuff there. And then let's go to our, let's, we will add these two things here. And then we'll run it. And now it's going to create something. So that is what that looks like. And while that's creating, we can see what it created for me yesterday. So when I asked it to do it yesterday, this is the image it created. Well, right, there it goes. So with this, it kind of, we're gonna have a candid, cozy moment for a millennial couple at home, sitting on the couch together, budgeting with a tablet, cooking dinner, blah, blah, blah. and it kind of came with this. And so this is stuff that you can go and you can change it a lot. And I'll show you where I kind of did a little bit more art directing with it. So do this.
We have a privacy question for you if you'd like to answer it now.
Sure.
Okay, so if you give a project brief from a client, is there any danger of the information on that brief being taken and used elsewhere on the internet? I know you said to be careful about private info. How safe are we talking?
You can change your settings so that it won't train on that. And a lot of times it's like, is this stuff that is, um, a lot of times it's a good conversation with the client to find out like how sensitive is this stuff? Are we able to kind of use ChatGPT for that? And can you make it, or can you do it in a way that it sounds a little bit more generic or isn't assigned to a specific customer, so it's less like of a privacy issue. Here's another one that I did the other day. So we got the image there, and I said, well, let's change the color palette. Gave it that, and now it can kind of change the color palette. And then I changed like, all right, now we want to make them a Gen Z couple. So we changed that. And then I realized that I hadn't created a logo for this. So I made one and then had them to put it in the top right. And so now it made that. It changed the people again. So sometimes you have to go back and say like, hey, no, I want to like, all right, now do it with this scene, but with this logo. And if we go back, we can see maybe what.
So we have another question.
Yeah,
Where is ChatGPT sourcing these people in the photos?
it's just making them,
Hmm.
kind of creating them because it's been trained on all sorts of different photos, and it's making like it's just kind of making people up.
Hmm. And it looks like they've gotten better at making hands potentially. I know for
Yes,
a while their hands were tough.
especially like I think ChatGPT was one of the first ones where like you kind of like the hands would have all the digits and you didn't have as many weird things. Like these things are getting like so much better at all this stuff. And these things like they do take a long time to kind of go through and like create these things. That's why I wanted to kind of go back and show some other examples we had.
Yeah, this is an interesting question. So there's no sourcing credit like a stock photo.
No, and that's why
Okay.
it is still a little bit of a like if people are using these for production, sometimes it's a little bit of a gray area, and some companies and clients don't want to use that because it is still a little bit of a gray area. Where a lot of times these might be great is playing around with showing kind of what you're thinking to give off to a designer or something like that and say, hey, this is kind of what I'm thinking. You can kind of play around with it a little bit to get something that's more like what's in your mind and kind of share it with somebody else that can kind of do something and make it more professional, maybe make it look like a little bit in a different style. Because one of the things is like there is a sort of AI-ness to these that like I think that if you're a customer, you can kind of like spot like if you're kind of if you've seen a few of these AI generated images, you can kind of spot them. And that's another thing like maybe your customers don't want that, or maybe you don't want your customers to see that you're using AI images and you're just kind of using it as things to convey your ideas off to someone else of like basically what you were thinking. Now I want to go move on to deep research. And I don't know if people have heard of deep research before or played around with this, but it's a little bit different than just a regular query where you're going to put in something and you're going to get something back right away, especially if it's text, like we put in our campaign brief and we had to wait maybe like a second to get the campaign brief back. For this, it's like having a research assistant. And so you can pose it a question, and then it's going to go all throughout the internet and look for answers and cite sources and then compile all of this stuff and create a report, like a comprehensive report. And you can kind of give it a bunch of details and stuff about what you're looking for there. So for this example, let's pretend that we are an electric bike company in the US, and we're interested in going into Canada. So this is really good for things like customer research or market analysis, market research, and things like that. So for the prompt here, we'll tell it it's a marketing analyst. We want to do a deep dive on the electric bike market in Canada, include top competitors, key customer segments, pricing strategies, growth trends, and emerging opportunities, and structure it as a business report. And for this, you need to select deep research. And then here, and I will show you with this one because these can take like 10, 15 minutes to run sometimes because they're very comprehensive and it goes to dozens of sources and cites things. So let me find our, so let's do this. And so once you hit it, it's going to ask you some clarifying questions there all the time for deep research. It's always going to ask a few things. You can answer them, and then it's going to go prepare the report. This one took 8 minutes. It went through 23 sources, did 73 different searches. And if you click that, you can kind of see all the stuff it was thinking. It kind of thinks aloud of what it's trying to do. Like I'm pricing together, Rise Bikes, market insights, market value, unit sales, trends, regional spots, etc. And then it comes back with this very comprehensive report on the electric bicycle market in Canada. So we have an overview, key customer segments, competitive landscape, pricing strategies, and so forth. And you can just tell like this is a great thing. And everything is sourced here. So you can kind of go and verify all these things, which is a great like first step for looking at the stuff that you can kind of, you might read through this, get some other questions, and then want to refine it again for with some different parameters, or go deeper on one specific market or one specific aspect of all this stuff. Yeah, so I'll just keep going. I just we can see kind of all the stuff there.
Could you tell us what you click to ask for deep research once more?
Oh yeah, sure. So down here, so if you have, when you're asking it, it has this little thing called tools. And so you click tools, and so you have deep research, create an image. So you can create an image, do that when you want to create an image, but you can also just tell it to create an image. It's smart enough to do that. Deep research, you need to select that. And this is another one where you only get, I think deep research is only available if you are on a paid plan. And this tells me like how many with my paid plan. I have 22 left of these that I can do. And then doing a web search, and then also if you're trying to do like code on canvases for code there. Okay, and I think we can probably let's kind of like quickly jump to the automations section. I want to talk about that, and then we can just Q&A the rest of the time.
Yeah, we have a bunch of Q&A going, so that will take some time.
Okay. Good. Yeah, let me just I'll just do that really quickly then. So automations, so we kind of showed some of these examples like going from meeting notes to a campaign brief. And what you can do is use tools like Zapier and Make to kind of stitch these things together to get different systems to talk to each other. And then ChatGPT can either do things like create content, or it can decide different things, or have like, it can kind of like route things different ways. So in this one, we could have our meeting, and you could have like a transcript from like Zoom or something like Otter or Fathom that will transcribe your calls. Have that feed directly into ChatGPT and create the brief from that. So it would take the transcript and then say create a creative brief based on all the parameters that we have. And then once that is approved, maybe we want it to then ChatGPT to extract all the information so that it can go into Asana and create a project there for that. And then maybe we even want it to like send a Slack out to the team or create a dashboard for that. I think it's probably a good time. So I took longer than I probably expected. So maybe we'll just sort of go for questions and answers.
Okay, that's great. So I've got a lot to start.
Okay.
One I think is fairly simple. So when do you click web search?
Web search. So if you want it, so mostly a lot of times it's just going on the things that it has learned. But these models only get updated ever so often. Web search is if you want it to actually go out and find stuff, like find an answer on the web. So you can click that. Sometimes you can just tell it to do that too, and it will know to do it. But to be safe, you can kind of do quick web search, similar to like what you did for deep research.
Awesome. Okay, so then we had a few questions that have to do with sort of the privacy and proprietary issues that come with it. So if a corporate font is proprietary, does it replicate the font or is it able to find it somewhere? Either way, I'm also thinking about how this could get out in the wild if there's a way to prohibit this from becoming in the public domain. So do you know how they'd handle those situations?
Yeah, so I think like you would just, I mean, the if it's a corporate font, you're seeing it out in the wild anyway, correct? Uh,
Mhm.
and so you would just not you wouldn't upload the actual font so that people wouldn't have that font. You would just see like the end. You would just kind of feed it examples that kind of already exist in the world, and then it would try to mimic those. And so that would be something again where maybe you're using it to get an idea across to somebody else who will actually put it together with the font, and not use it for a like a final production output.
Awesome. Okay, so what are the legal precedent for using AI generated materials such as data metrics, images, etc.? Um, yeah, and on top of that, are companies disclosing that their articles, blogs, content are written or partially written by AI? Is there a best practice you're seeing for handling that?
I think with AI, there's so much stuff is companies really have to have like a set of like really kind of ask themselves how they want to do it and what they're okay with and what they want to disclose and kind of put in some governance and clear guidelines for that. So are some companies writing blog posts and just not saying where they're from? Probably, yeah, I would say there's probably a lot, but like others are, there sometimes you'll get things that are actually disclosed, or probably the best thing is like having a human in the loop so that it might generate a blog post that then a human edits, and how much that human is editing that you can kind of decide like does that still feel like something that's coming from a person. So maybe that that what ChatGPT or whatever is giving you is it's giving you like a draft that you're then working with, and then you're refining it as a human. So you're taking the AI thing and making something that sounds more human and that people can connect with. So it isn't really just being generated by AI. Like most of the stuff I find, it's like it's always good to not have things just go out to the public as is. It's always good to have like that human in the loop so that you can kind of protect your brand, the like how things sound like that, because these things are they do have they do have like a mind of their own. And you can't always predict what they're going to say. And if you want to protect your brand and stuff like that, you really need to be in the loop.
Mhm. Um, awesome, thank you.
Mhm.
I think you might have mentioned this earlier, but does a subscription to any specific tool solve for the privacy issue? I know you said that you could go into your settings and prevent training, but it sounds like maybe not a catch-all.
No, I think the one like if you're really if you are really concerned about privacy data, you can have like there are open source, but like obviously there's more than just ChatGPT, Gemini, and Claude. There's like other ones that you can like have your own instance that runs locally. And sometimes there are companies that are running like their own LLM, and then it's kind of a closed loop that they know what goes in and nothing goes out into the world. Those are kind of more extreme examples. There's other things like medical profession with like HIPAA stuff so that you can't have, if you're trying to use something for any patient thing, you can't have any patient data go out there. So they might run it through something where they anonymize it. And then that anonymized version goes into the LLM and then comes back.
Awesome. Yeah, super helpful.
Mhm.
Um, this one's interesting. So when you restate the same prompt, do you tend to get different outcomes, like your logo design example? Like, can small changes really vary what you're being delivered?
Yeah, I mean, like this, like you can kind of look at the like even running the same thing again. Like I showed you what I had yesterday, and this is the one from today, and it's everything is completely like is pretty different. Like a lot of some things are similar, but other things are quite different. And yeah, you can just by changing a few things, you'll get much different exactly like you get different outputs.
Mhm.
Oh, I was I was pointing to something on my screen, but I'm realizing that I hadn't shared my screen anymore.
That's all right. Um, okay, yeah, here's a question that I've sort of been wondering too. So when ChatGPT first came out, we knew that it was time sensitive, so it was like pulling only information from before a certain year. In terms of research and getting very specific into market research, okay, it used to be that ChatGPT did not surface current data, let's say data on mobile payments in Africa that was done by governments or analysts. Um, do they now tap into that more localized data or more recent data?
You can now because you have that, like that's what you'd use the web search for. So if you wanted something that is more recent,
Mhm.
you would have it to like go and then maybe like instruct it specifically to kind of go and find these things on the web.
Oh, okay. A new question right in the chat. This goes back to the previous question. Why will it give you a different answer or logo today than it gave you tomorrow?
Because these things are, it is not searching for one example. It's building everything from scratch based on the prompts. And so it's almost like another way to kind of describe it is almost like an improv comedian where you're giving it a prompt and then it's going and it's making something. And the two, if you give it the same prompt on two different days, the sketches might be very similar, but they're going to have differences because it is creating everything on the fly based on different things. So it doesn't have a like right answer that it goes to. It goes and it's like it's giving the thing and it's creating what it thinks a right answer sounds like or looks like based on the prompts.
That makes sense.
Mhm.
Um, this question might be a little bit bigger. This seems like it could go anywhere, but I would love to hear about AI agents and how non-corp users might explore this new area. This feels more theoretical and could go anywhere, but
Yeah, I
I'll
mean
let you take
agents.
that.
Yeah, agents are still like they're kind of a big buzzword now. And an agent is basically instead of asking, you're going to prompt AI and get an answer back, you're going to prompt AI and then it can go do things on your behalf. So for instance, like a very so at its core, like deep research is kind of an agent because it's going, you're prompting it and then it's going to find a bunch of different things and then it's going to give you back that report. Or doing stuff like I've created like a little chat bot in Slack for a client that he can prompt it to go create a customer in his invoicing software. He can ask them to invoice that customer, and he can ask it to create kick off a project. And so once he asks with it, and ChatGPT determines what it's going to do, it puts it down some different workflows. And they can be like the agents can be like assistants. It's just really what you want it to do. And it's still a field where there's a lot of things that are kind of starting to like some things are very, very complicated. But there's a lot, you're kind of getting more and more people in this agent field. Those are kind of asking what are the things that they want these AIs to help them with.
Awesome. And then we have a question. Can you share a step-by-step of how to actually put together an automated workflow? Like the one at the end of the presentation would be perfect to see step by step.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a little bit more. I mean, those are they take like a long time to go through and do. So I can't really do a like a full step by step here. I can kind of show
Totally.
somebody kind of how kind of go through what I actually what we would actually do there. And that's like I kind of kept that at a very like high level because you go through um and Zapier, you kind of find that you have to kind of decide how you want this thing to work. And then in Zapier or whatever, you find the little elements that kind of connect the other things. And then you kind of have to go back and forth to say, like, all right, how does this prompt need to work? Am I getting the outputs that I need? And then kind of testing all that stuff. So probably not, I can't really do that in this.
Yeah, we're time sensitive here.
Yeah.
Awesome. I worked my way through all the questions in the chat, it looks like. But if anybody else has a question, feel free to unmute yourself and jump in. I also have a question for all of the attendees. If you feel comfortable with putting your camera on, I would love to take a screenshot of the group because it's so fun that you're all here. Yeah, that's my special ask. Oh, thank you. Look at all these smiling faces.
Yeah.
I do have still a question. I'm just trying to
Yeah.
understand, Damon, the providing reference material,
Mhm.
whatever kind of a document.
Yep.
So there is a way, whether you're a subscriber or you're not a subscriber, there's a way to make that information not be used to train the models or to not be kind of used to get out in the wild. Is that right? Like with anything?
Yeah, I believe so. I believe like with you can go into the settings and say like do not train on this data. And I think Claude does it by default, and Gemini and ChatGPT, you just have to go change the setting to that
Mhm.
and find it in the settings section.
So even if you're not a paid subscriber, you can do that too.
I believe even if you're not a paid, you can still do that. But yeah.
Yeah, thanks.
Mhm.
Any other questions while you have our great leader here?
Should we all
What's
smile?
yeah,
Oh
what's
yeah,
your
yeah.
favorite? What
Everybody
do you like to
smile for
use?
me. Yeah, ready? I'm gonna count down. 3, 2, 1, smile. Thank you. That's beautiful. Yeah. Any other questions?
Oh, I just asked like, what's his
Oh,
favorite? What do you use the
oh
most?
yeah. Great question.
Yeah, ChatGPT is the one that I kind of use for most stuff. That's the one I think the being able to kind of art direct the images is really fun for me. And like I said, like it really is just kind of picking one and going because they're all like they all cost like $20 a month, and like that can add up a lot if you're trying to use all of them. So that's the one I've chosen is ChatGPT.
Thank you.
Awesome. Well, if there are no other questions, I think we can wrap.
I can jump.
Oh
I
yeah,
just have a
please.
quick question. Yeah. So David, I was curious why you didn't choose to use like a graphic solution like a Canva or an Adobe Express or something like that to create the logo and prefer to use something like ChatGPT, which sounds to me like it's a bit more limited in terms of its graphic capabilities.
Yeah, no, I think those are like it's exactly like those are probably better examples of if you're really trying to make something like for real, like those are like different tools to explore to explore. I think for this one, I was just kind of staying within my example. And one is like, all right, if I'm going to create an ad, I need a logo to put in this ad. So let's go for like just kind of show how you can go iterate back and forth a little bit in ChatGPT with this thing. But yeah, if you're trying to do something like I would like it's always good to experiment with a couple different options. So you might start, try do some stuff in ChatGPT, do some stuff in Canva or Adobe, or there's something like Recraft, and just see like, all right, which ones am I getting the output that I like the most, or am I getting close enough to that? So a lot of the stuff, it's always like try a couple different things, see how they work, see what you like, and then kind of go down the path that you like the most.
Yeah, of course, those other tools you're gonna have to pay subscription fees for, and so it's kind of adds on to the cost basis. But yeah, I completely agree with you.
Yeah.
Well, Adobe Express has a free version.
Yeah.
Yeah, they all do initially.
They all do, and they're always going to like. I think a lot of the free versions are kind of like they're sort of teasers and like kind of get you excited. You can get a little bit of a taste of how it works, but if you're going to try to do any real work on it, you'll end up using up all the free parts really quickly, or they're going to keep the features that you really want to get to like really do stuff are going to be only available once you have the paid version.
All right. Well, thank you, everyone. Thank you, Damon. That was super. Based on everybody's comments in the chat, it sounds like everyone took a lot out of it. Yeah. If anybody else is an expert on a topic and would like to do a lunch and learn, reach out to me or Denise, who's on this call, and we can arrange something. And then one last plug, our Next Gen Marketers program is starting in the fall soon. So if you know any recent grads, soon to be grads, reach out to us and share the program if they're interested in marketing. Yeah, Damon, that was awesome. I feel smarter just in the
Great.
last hour, so thank you.
Thanks, Damon.
Yeah, thanks everyone. I really appreciate the time.